Hello, my name is Taylor Elwood of magicalexperiments.com, and I'm going to talk about role bending and magic. I recently made a post on the Magical Experiments Facebook page about role bending and why it's an important part of magic. And one person asked, what did I mean by that? And I said, role bending is really, it's bending social rules, moral rules, the rules of science, the rules of whatever else. And I think that's pretty much true. When I look at magic, magic is about taking possibility and turning it into reality. How do you turn possibility into reality? Well, there's definitely some rule bending in place that has to occur, because we are bending the rules when we decide that we're going to turn a possibility into a reality. When we decide to make a choice that is going to manifest something that we want or desire into our lives. So it's really important to understand that, and also recognize that by bending the rules, so to speak, that what we're really doing is we're taking on this kind of outlook that says we don't necessarily need to conform to a particular standard or belief system in order for magic to work. And in fact, if anything, magic is the exact opposite of that. It is creating the flexibility of belief, the flexibility of perspective, and applying that to our lives, to the situations that we're in, and asking ourselves what best fits this particular situation and allows us to resolve it or to manifest what we need in order to successfully continue living our lives. And that's my approach to magic. And I'll admit that that's a fairly gray approach in a lot of ways. I'm a very situational person. But I find that it works out rather well. And it's not necessarily that I'm even out for it all just for myself, so much as that what I'm really looking at is how can I navigate life easier? Because that's what I really look at magic, and I say that magic, yes, it's a spirituality for me, yes, it's a belief system, but it's a set of techniques, it's a process, it's a methodology, it's a perspective, a way of looking at the world that involves looking at it and making the changes that are needed to be made in order to make life successful. So I look at magic in that way as well, and I think that that's really important, because a lot of people don't necessarily look at magic in quite that perspective. I think, though, that having that flexibility of thought and that flexibility of perspective and that awareness is integral to really making magic successful. And learning to bend the rules means really learning to look at magic in a different way than we did before. It's really looking at the world in a different way. It's saying which of these rules really apply, and how can I bend them in order to get what it is that I want. And at the same time, there's something to be said for keeping in mind that what you're trying to get does have an impact or an effect on other people and other beings. So then there's the question of, is this harming someone or not? And that's always a key point to consider as well. So I think that, as we approach this whole role bending thing, we also have to look and say, can I handle the consequences? Can I handle the ramifications of making this desire happen? Am I willing to live with that? And I think that that's something that people don't always recognize, and it's important that they do, because if we want to make something successful, we have to necessarily look at how we're going to bend the rules. But we also need to understand the consequences for doing that, and decide if that's something we can really be behind or not. And if it's not something we really can be behind, then we need to recognize that as well. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.